Hey y'all, welcome back to Red at the Wire. Well, Churchill Downs is opening up this week, and they have a pick five sequence that includes a couple of stakes races, the Iroquois, the Pocahontas, as well as the Locust Grove. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so the Churchill Downs late pick five on Saturday comprises races 7 through 11. And leg one is race 7, and it's the Pocahontas Stakes. It's a grade 3, run at a mile for 2-year-old fillies. And of course, at Churchill Downs, we always want to remember that that is a one-turn mile. So horses with early speed maybe can carry it a little bit longer, and not, they are 2-year-olds, so it's not quite the same challenge that a two-turn mile race would be, and horses with early speed can maybe carry it a little longer. Important to note. So we'll look over here on the left column. You'll see we separated the runners by E, EP, P, and S. Of course, you guys know what that means. And early runners, pace pressers, and closers. And note, there's no late runners in this race per se. We had a couple that in the preliminary races broke kind of poorly, like You Almost Had Me and Ripperton, but I wouldn't qualify them as late runners. So we've put them back where they would most likely run if they break well. From the columns, Regal Rumor had a pretty good effort out of the box, and showed some precocity there, and so I think was being the logical one to include. You Almost Had Me has had some really good races, just had a bad break last time, but still showed some class, was still able to get up for third in the debutante, and certainly, I believe, capable of better. With Brad Cox, they'll fix that problem, and this one should be probably rating just off Regal Rumor, and I think is illogical to use. Empire Island in the first start showed a lot of precocity, ran a pretty good race coming from off the pace, and got a really nice figure to debut, and I believe it's the highest of any in this group, so it's logical to include with the second start. Norm Cassie just having a great year. Fully expect this one to be competitive and is potentially a win candidate. Going to throw a wild card in here with Reigning Sugar. She was incredibly green in her start, but she did win first out, and was kind of all over the place coming into the stretch. But again, showed the precocity to win first time. Coming into the second start, it's always a land where they likely will improve. So this one moving forward with a good second start, I think can be competitive here. And more than likely, you're going to get a pretty good price because she didn't really beat a whole lot in her first start, but she did win. And again, I think showed some precocity. So we want to throw in a price there. And then VV's Dream, I'm not overly confident with this one, to be honest. But, she was getting to bright work when they faced off against each other earlier in the year. And of course, Brightwork has gone on to be quite a horse, and is definitely the leading 2-year-old filly right now. I'm not sure that this one wants the distance, but I think there's some talent there, and like I said, was competitive with Brightwork, so I think is a logical include within the mix. But this should be a speed-dominated race, I believe, so maybe if it gets a little hot with Regal Rumor and You Almost Had Me up front, then perhaps a horse like Empire Island might benefit. Okay, leg 2 of the late pick 5 at Churchill Downs is race 8, and it's an N1X allowance, non-winners at 2 lifetime, and it's run at a mile on the turf for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, and this is definitely a spread race. This one is, there's a lot of leaps of faith you're going to have with a couple, with, I think, the better prospects in this race. If you'll note, there's a lot of late runners, and there are very few on the front end. The 2 on the front end, Spicy Italian, she's trying turf for the first time, and doesn't really have a whole lot of pedigree or anything to get really excited about, and I don't think it's fast enough. And then Star Wisher is another one that really hasn't demonstrated enough speed to be competitive, and I think there's others better here. So, of the horses that are going to be early, or involved early, Always at Ease looks to me one that is on the upswing and improving, and had a pretty good race last time behind Musical Score. And again, is on a progression, looking to move forward, and probably will have a good opportunity to get a jump on some of these, being up near the leaders. And then we look at the from the pace pressers. Storm Bay and Musical Score, they both pretty much look about the same to me. Maybe an edge to Musical Score because it's her third lifetime start. Came off the layoff and ran a pretty good race. I'm a little concerned that she didn't change leads very readily in her second start, but she's by Brad Cox, trained by Brad Cox, so I'm sure that'll be worked out. But it showed some talent, and I like her chances here. Storm Bay, another one, was pretty much on the same path, and has had a little more experience, but seems to be moving on the upswing. So I think those two are from the pace pressers you definitely want to use. Now, we got a lot of late runners in this race. And of them, the two I've chosen, I think, require a little bit of a leap of faith, as I mentioned. Now, Grace Darling has had quite a few starts, but has been off for a while. And her last start was at Tampa in a stakes race, and she really didn't do a whole lot of running, but her numbers are comparable to the horses in here, and she's been off for a while, had some opportunity to grow and mature at 3. So I think this one is one that you want to keep an eye on. And then Haystack, it's trained by Whit Beckworth now, but used to be trained with Chad Brown, trained by Chad Brown. And this one has shown some pretty decent progression, looked to be starting to improve a bit, and has numbers that I think fit well within here. And I think, given that, probably is a good competitor here. Grace Darling, you think you're going to get a little better price on, and she's trained by Brian Lynch, and he killed it at Kentucky Downs, and I'm thinking maybe he's going to continue on with this one. But this is a race you definitely have to spread. There's just a note on a couple of them that may have caught your eye. Watch This Birdie. I thought had an absolutely perfect trip last time and couldn't get the job done. And that's why I'm throwing her out, because her other efforts were a little subpar, so I'm not sure she's moving forward so much as benefited from having a perfect trip and still wasn't able to get the job done. So and I think the price might be a little short. So that's one I think you want to throw out. Empirical View, as well as moving into roots and doing that for the first time as well as turf. And so for those reasons, that's a little too much first to do. So we're going to pass on. We're going to pass on Empirical View. But those are our 5. But I think, again, this is a race that there's no clear-cut favorite in my view. It's one you're definitely going to want to spread on. Okay, leg 3 of the late pick 5 is the 9th race at Churchill Downs, and it's the Iroquois Stakes. It's a grade 3, run at a mile for 2-year-olds, and let's not forget, at Churchill Downs, it's a 1-turn mile. So early speed has a little bit of an edge there. And speaking of that, we've got quite a few that like to run up near the pace in this race. And I think that makes for a fairly interesting affair. Risk It is of the class of them, and he is in the 8 hole, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think he'll be able to get to where he wants to. His maiden race was pretty darn impressive. They didn't even ask him, and he drew off from what I thought was a pretty good Saratoga 2-year-old field. So I think this one's got a lot of upside, being by Gunrunner. Mile's not going to be a problem. I think we're going to be seeing more of this one later on. So Risk It, to me, is the class of this field, and you could even consider singling in some respects. The reason why maybe we need to hedge a little bit is Market Street. Now, I don't think Market Street can win this race, but he's proven to be a tough customer over his career so far, and he always seems to hang around. He finished second to Rhyme Schemes in the Saratoga Special. Granted, didn't put up, he didn't was a distant second, but he did keep on, and he's proven that he'll stay in the fight. So that might soften up Brisket just a little bit. So maybe we can't be totally confident that Riskett can wire the field. There's also a couple others in here. West Saratoga, I don't like the fact that his last race he really didn't beat very much, but he has been progressing. I just don't think he's in the class of these other horses here, but I think he'll be on the engine early and will add to the pace fire. So for those reasons, maybe I think Riskett's your pick in this race, but maybe not necessarily a single. Others to think about, I think Seize the Gray is one that we'll discount the last race because it was supposed to be on turf, came off of it, and Ship Cadet, losing to him, I don't think is any disgrace. Ship Cadet looks like he's going to be a pretty good one. So Seize the Gray still maintained third. Prior to that, he had shown some good effort and at Saratoga. So I think this one has some class. And I think he's one that can probably stay in this race. He's going to rate right off the leaders and make a move, but I'm not sure he's good enough to beat Riskett, but he's one we'll keep on there. Patriot Spirit, I have to be honest, I'm not really that psyched about keeping this horse in because he did not beat much in his inaugural effort, and I never like to put horses in the mix have that easy a time of it. He did certainly show ability, but again, it wasn't the kind of field that, he did what a good horse is supposed to do. He beat the field, so we can say that, but I'm not overly jazzed about him, and I'm not sure he's as good as Riskett, but he is in this field. I think maybe he's got a chance, but under I think is more likely. Union Roll to me is very interesting. He ran against the bias at the speed bias at Monmouth in his last, and came from off the pace and won what I thought was a pretty convincing maiden, given the fact that the early speed was so dominating at the meet. So I think you have to give another look to this one. Certainly more distance is going to be right up this one's alley. And if the pace gets awful hot on the front end, he is definitely going to be picking up the pieces late. And I think because of Seize the Gray and Riskett, you just might get a decent price on this one. So Union Roll to me is a really good value play and presents a really nice alternative to Riskett. Leg 4 of the late pick 5 is the 10th race at Churchill Downs, and it's the Locust Grove Stakes. It's a grade 3 run at 1 mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And right off the bat, as we do separate them by running style, you'll note there are no pure front runners in this race. They're mostly early speed and pace pressers. So somebody is going to get the lead, and they're basically going to inherit it. I have a sneaky suspicion it'll be the 8, Fanny and Freddie. Al Stahl has 2 horses in this race, and I just got a sneaky feeling he's going to try to use Fanny and Freddie as a rabbit for Royal Take Charge. However, I can't, that's just my conjecture. If we look at it from horses who should factor in this race and logical win candidates, Search Results certainly is at the top of the class. She always brings it every time and is unlucky a lot of times. She runs usually into horses that are better at the grade 2 and grade 1 level, but she always gives an honest effort, and I think this is a field that she can beat. Now, you could have very well said that about the last race, but she just was a little unlucky there. But is now fresh, should fire for this race, and I fully expect to win. She's got going to have a lot of company with the type of running style that she has, just rating off the leaders from Ray, Falconet, Royal Take Charge. Not sure about Royal Take Charge. I think maybe they'll keep her a little further back this time, using Fanny and Freddie up on the engine. But nonetheless, Search the Results. A lot of these run in a similar style, so I actually think that's to her advantage because she's just better than most of these, faster and classier. So Search Results is a logical win candidate, and I think so. It's a definite use. As far as competitors to her, Ray is a bit of an enigma. Had 3 straight wins, a couple back. and was looking all the way as a horse who was moving forward and about to get up into the Grade 1 company and be a real factor in the older division. But didn't really happen last time, and has been, you kind of got to wonder now if maybe she was just going really well or caught some soft fields. I don't know. But she is trained by Brad Cox, and I'm not ready to give up on her completely. She did kind of let me down in that 3-horse race last time, and Pauline's Pearl somehow found a way to win that, but I haven't given up on Amo Ray yet. I think this horse has talent, and the unfortunate thing is that she does have a similar running style to Search Results, which I think compromises her chances, but I think it's one you can use underneath for sure. Falconet's going to be a little further back, probably more like mid-pack. Than the Search Results or Amo Ray, and that may be to an advantage if things get a little hot on the front end. Falconet had a pretty good score last time, pretty decent win, and looks to be moving forward, moving in the right direction at 4 years old, and there's certainly room to grow. Todd Pletcher is obviously a great trainer, so he'll get the most out of her, and she looks to be coming into the race in good form, so I think we'll include in the mix. Royal Take Charge again. I think they're going to use the rabbit. Al Stahl is going to use Fanny and Freddie on the front end, and that'll leave Royal Take Charge. Will smartly sit back off of that, not get into trouble, and maybe coming late. And this is another one that is a little more lately raced than the others. Appears to still have some upside, and you're going to get a really nice price on the morning line, 15-1. This is one maybe to consider to upset the apple cart. Pauline's Pearl, I'm throwing in here just because she burned me last time. Her form just has not been very good. The last race was only a 3-horse race, and she was able to sit off a pace stool up front and make a run and catch him late. But I don't certainly know. This horse used to be a pretty darn good horse, but it looks like that maybe Father Time's catching up, or she's just not in the best form. But she does come from off the pace, and there may be a fair amount of it. So Pauline's Pearl may be one to think about. I can't see her beating Search Results, but I didn't like her last time either. So you get a halfway decent price. Certainly don't want anything too short, but it's one you want to think about. As far as later runners go, Leda Vita to me is the best of them. She had a really solid effort last time, and it just always brings it and always seems to pick up a check. So I think this is a horse that seems to be moving forward, may benefit from a hot pace, and the form is really the most attractive thing to me. Probably more likely to be an underneath candidate, but I think it's definitely one that you want to use in your mix. Okay, leg 5 of the late pick 5 is the 11th race, and it's a maiden special weight run at 6 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies. And I think there's only 2 horses in this race, and one of them's an AE who actually have a race under their belt. So this is really a crapshoot. They're all firsters for the most part. The only one that we've looked at from the list, I threw in High Shot because she has a race under her belt. She finished 3rd behind Regal Rumor, who's running in the Pocahontas. And obviously horses improve their best from their first debut to their second start. So I threw in High Shot on the 11th hole. I don't know. But there's some runners who in here who look pretty good. Regulatory Risk is probably leading the pack. It's by Chad Brown and a gun run. It's owned by Omaha Beach, who's just a fantastic first-time starter sire. You don't see bullets on the tab too often from Chad Brown's, and this one has one, and a couple of 5 furlongs, good stamina building work. So I think this one's a logical win candidate and probably a runner. Intricate on the rail. I don't like taking maidens on the rail who've never run before, especially 2-year-olds, but this one, it looks pretty solid by Gun Runner, and the tab looks pretty live. So I think that you want to include Intricate in your mix. Arena's Charms by Justify. That's really the only reason I threw her on there. And again, the tab looks pretty decent, so it might be a runner. Bang Bang Fury, I thought, was very interesting because you're likely going to get a price. And is by Violence, who's a pretty precocious first-time starter sire. He gets him at 18%. And this one's got a pretty live tab. And Donnie Von Himmel, for those of you who don't know, is a really good trainer in the Midwest. He focuses on Oak Lawn, Remington Park, the Midwest circuit. But he knows how to get a good horse ready. And so this is the one that I might be laying in the weeds, and one that I think you want to think about, especially for a price. So those are the five that I've considered. I think use your best judgment. I think it's a pretty wide open race, and it's tough to have a maiden as the last leg of the pick five where you've got to spread, but I think you definitely do in this case. Of the AEs, if they draw in West Sunset and Mia Marcella, they're both pretty logical. They've got precocious sires, and one of West Sunset, I believe, is trained by Steve Asmussen, and I can't remember who trains Mia Marcella. I think it's Brad Cox, or it might be in reverse. Well, Brad Cox, West Sunset, Mia Marcella, Steve Asmussen. Regardless, they're logical that you want to include because of the trainer's record, and they both have pretty good tabs, and they should fire should they draw in. So just a couple to think about. Okay, so here's what our ticket's going to look like for the late pick five at Churchill on Saturday. In leg one, the Pocahontas. I don't think it's completely clear cut who's going to take it down. I like the Brad Cox horse. I believe is the 7, but I think it needs a little spreading. So we're going to use 1, 4, 6, and 7. In leg 2, the allowance race, that definitely needs some spreading. That race is it's really hard to identify who would be the best horse in that race. So we're going to use 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. In leg 3, the Iroquois, we're going to try to double single in this ticket to maximize our options in the races that need it. So we're going to single the 8, Risk It. I really liked what I saw from his maiden. He drew off without being asked, and I think he can handle this field. And then in the Locust Grove, we're going to single Search Results. Now, I'll admit that gives me a little bit of agita. She brings it every time Search Results does, but does find a way to give it up a lot. And granted, most of the time she's facing superior competition. There's always seems to be somebody a little better. I'm not sure that's the case here. And I think this is a race that she should be able to dominate. So we're going to single Search Results. And then finally in the maiden special weight, I think that's a wide open race with all those first-time starters. We're going to try with 5 to spread. We're going to use the 1, 3, 8, 10, and 11. For the record, I think Regulatory Risk is probably the most likely win candidate, being by Chad Brown, and Omaha Beach as the sire. But it's not quite as clear cut, just because we don't have horses with form, except for High Shot, which I threw in there because he's already got a race under his belt. The 13 and the 15 as also eligibles. I would leave it to your discretion to how you want to use them, but if one or both of them draws in, I think they're win candidates and ones that you want to think about. So that's our pick 5 ticket. I think it's a challenging sequence, especially when you consider all those firsters in the maiden for the last leg. And you could literally push the all button on that, but I always have a problem with going to all. I think you can narrow it down. You should be able to, and so hopefully it won't bite us in the butt, and we'll be able to score. And having a double single is a little daring, but I think it's justified, and I think it's a ticket that might go a little chalky, so we don't want to spend a whole lot for what might be a mild payout. So anyway, we'll continue with our postings about the Breeders' Cup. We did the sprint division last time. Next, I think we'll go with the dirt and the turf mile, and we'll continue through all the divisions just to see where we stand and get a good feel for who our top prospects are leading up to the Breeders' Cup. We'll continue with our special postings as well, and as always, we'll have a weekend sequence to take a look at. So a lot to look forward to. We're still working on the website, and I will keep you apprised of that when we decide what to do with it. And we've got some other goodies coming up, and I'll keep you posted for all of those as well. So stay right here, and thanks for coming by. I'll be talking to you soon, and until then, be well.